If you need to memorize a script fast, like overnight fast, this video is gonna show you how. Most people think that memorizing lines takes days of practice and time you don't have, but the truth is, it doesn't have to. If you follow the right process, it can feel like you're downloading a script to your brain. And I know because I've done it. I've had to memorize countless of pages of scripts the night before performing, more times than I can count. In this video, I'm gonna show you my 5-step process to downloading any script to memory instantly. And at the end, I'm gonna show you the secret trick I use to make it all click. Okay, so step number 1 is prep your environment and get ready. The first thing you're gonna wanna go ahead and do is print your scripts so you can actually hold them. And then the second thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure that you stand up and get on your feet and are prepared to speak. You don't just wanna be on your phone scrolling through your script and just saying the words in your mind. You wanna be on your feet, script in hand, and ready to speak out these words, because memorizing is something you have to do. It's not something that's casual where you can sit on the couch and do it. You need to be up. You need to make it almost as if you were doing an activity, as if you were practicing basketball or cheerleading or dance. You need to be up on your feet and doing it. Okay, step number 2 is going to be chunking the script. So the next thing you're going to want to do once you have your script printed out, you're on your feet, you're ready, is you're going to want to go ahead and break that script up into parts. So if your script is 3 or 4 pages long, this might look like going page by page. If your script is only like a page or 2 long, you might chunk it into paragraphs of 3 to 4. And this really is going to make the process way easier because it's going to break it down into smaller segments that you can memorize. So instead of focusing on, oh my goodness, I have to do this 4 or 5 page script, you're going to break it down into, okay, I have a paragraph to memorize and then a second paragraph to memorize. And then this way, me personally, I like to memorize sometimes out of order. I don't always go from top to bottom. Sometimes I do memorize the 4th chunk and then the 3rd chunk or the 1st chunk, or focusing on chunks that might have a little bit more words or that might be a little bit harder to memorize. Okay, so step number 3 is repetition. And I know what you might be thinking, I have one night. How am I gonna get repetition? I don't have days of time. And the craziest thing about that is repetition does not mean that you need multiple days. That just means in whatever time period you're doing this in, which for me, it was like the night before the performance, you do it so many times. So even in one night, repeat each chunk as much as possible. This does not mean that you repeated the chunks and you have 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, days of practice. This just means within the 1 hour that you had, that you ran the script as much as possible. Number 4 is going to be record and rehearse without the script. Now, this is a really important step. This is often the step that I actually have a breakthrough with, because when you force yourself to record yourself saying it in video without looking at the script, you'll find that you know a lot more than you think you do. At first, when you're memorizing it, you may use the script and look back down when you forget a word or try to go back to it. But what I like to do is go ahead, set up your camera, record yourself, and force yourself to come up with the words even if you forget. And that might mean even if you sit there blank for like 2 minutes, that's okay, but force your brain to try to come up with the words. And if you really can't come up with the words, because that happens to me sometimes too, what I like to do is paraphrase. If you don't know the exact words, think about, okay, I know the line is something about this, and at least spit that out, so that way you're kind of forcing your brain to learn. You're training it. Testing yourself like this forces your brain to retain the information, not just recognize it. And number 5, understanding the story, not just the lines. This is my biggest tip and what helps me make it all click. Sometimes I start with this at the very beginning, and sometimes I save it all for the end. But basically, what this tip means is don't memorize the words. Think about what's actually happening in the story. So sometimes when I first get my script and I'm doing that first read through, I'm not trying to see how much I can memorize. What I'm trying to actually see is what's happening in the script. Who's talking? What's the story? Am I receiving something? Does the story start off very angry and then resentful and then disappointed? Like kind of what's happening in the story. Often that makes it a lot easier for my mind to know what line comes next because I know what feeling or what emotion or what transaction comes next. What is the other character saying maybe in the line that I'm responding to? Just understanding actually the context and what's happening, almost as if what's flowing or what's moving, helps me memorize it a lot better than trying to cram as many words in at first. So whether you want to use this step in the very beginning or in the very end, it is vital that you actually understand what's happening and not just the lines that you're reading. So that's my exact 5-step method I use to memorize my scripts in one night. If you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe and watch out for my next video of trying unusual memorization techniques and seeing if they actually work. See you guys later. Bye.